I also really like the way they captured like Skype from like 15 years ago. Guacu. I got back to my flat and no one had been there for like 3 days. So
stale hot air.
It was just my building like retains heat, and like none of the windows have been open. Big glazed windows, so just like light pouring in, east facing. So anyway, and then like it was colder outside, but I was just trying to ventilate this thing, and it's that thing where like you're going to bed, you're cooling down, and like your forehead is just damp. And you're like, why? It's not a very good story. I know. Basically, my flat was warm. But my point is, when you were like, oh, it's like it's autumnal, it's Gilmore Girls season, and I'm like, well, no, because in my flat, it's still the Sahara.
In America, where I just was in New York, I went upstate to Hudson, like 2 hours on the train north.
Yeah, to a very sort of Succession-y vibe place.
It did feel a bit. I thought Wedding Crash's homely estate.
I think the episode where you went was in season 2 of Succession when they go to visit Pierce. When they remember they fly and see Pierce and they try and woo Pierce and buy Pierce.
Yes, I wish it was that nice, or I was there for an important occasion. But so I went to Hudson. And at first, I had no idea what Hudson is. I know like the Hudson River's a thing. So it must lead up
the river.
And we turned up in this town. I was a bit like, what is this place? Like sometimes American towns have really weird energy. Like even I know like in the UK we have weird towns, but like American towns,
it's like Western vibe, is it?
It just is. Even though it isn't the Wild West, I'm looking at like it's just you see the flag with house with flag out the front, and just like everything that's really quiet and abandoned still feels like a set. Yeah. And all Americans are NPCs. Apologies. They just some of the things that we overhear Americans saying are just ridiculous. I'm like, you're not real people. NPCs, yeah. And then I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. I was like, nice. Because everyone's there, and then we took this like to go to the wedding. We were like escorted in school buses to go to which again also a set. Like school buses aren't real, also massive. And then I got over to this like homely estate where the wedding was, and I was like, oh, I get it. Overlooking a lake, absolutely beautiful. And then it's September, but that part of America is just on the edge of fall. And I say fall because I think American autumn is its own brand, and it's called fall, and it's like we're almost there. Yeah. And it's like the browning of the leaves was just starting. The sun's not quite as high. I can't quite call it fall, but I was picturing.
If you were there
fall.
in a month, you would have
beautiful.
Everything would just be sepia tone brown.
Outrageous. New York is still heinously expensive, even though I was just there. Out of control. It is out of control.
It's.
I feel like my dad used to be at the minibar in a hotel. It's like, don't touch anything. Like it's like that can of M&Ms, which is somehow in a can.
You're right.
That is like $7. My dad was like, do not touch the minibar. I felt like that in the entire city.
Yeah.
It's insane. I had brunch, and it was $6 to add like 2 slices. I didn't do it, but like to add 2 slices of halloumi plus tax plus tip. That's $8 for halloumi.
Do you hear yourself?
It's insane. I know. Like James, you don't need halloumi on your avocado toast, but just seeing it on the menu.
I flew out to New York, and they were like $6 for halloumi. It's outrageous.
You're having a joke? I'm really struggling.
When I went to this wedding up in Hudson.
Yeah,
I'm teasing, but like, I mean, it is everything worldwide. I mean, come on, it's crazy,
nuts.
Anyway, welcome back. I'm going stateside next week, so we're sort of doing a sort of exchange at the moment, sort of coming in and out.
What's Florida like? I've been as a kid.
Well, I'll be able to tell you even better after I go again next week.
Have you been before?
I know. I'm prefacing my sentence. Let me get in.
You're saving the wall.
I'm like talking to like a CNN anchor. It's like, but you've been before. But you went last year. If you
voted for that?
If you let me finish my question, please. Florida. Well, so the Florida I have most recently been to and we'll be going to next week is, it's like, I would say like normal Florida in that it's not tourist Florida in that it's not like Orlando or Miami or it's a city, I guess, about 40 minutes outside of Orlando. Okay. Called Melbourne. And it's just, it's just like classic, not that one, but
with most places in America.
Named after that one, actually. Yes. I read the history about it. And it's, it's if you go to the main town, no building is over 2 stories high because of the hurricanes, I guess. I don't know. And
shout out to Flint and Flame Outdoor. I know you're listening.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Keeping your knives sharp across America.
Yep.
And every man wears a baseball cap, a t-shirt, and shorts.
Yes.
Every car has a boat attached to the back of it.
Just in case.
There's every man wears Oakleys and wraparounds.
It's very trendy now.
Sorry,
Very trendy
now.
Timothy
Hey.
Chalamet will wear that to Fashion
will.
Week. Yeah.
And everyone's in flip flops, and it's kind of like, hey, how you doing? It's kind of random because in a way, it's from my perception of it, experience of it, everything is still very clustered into its own little community. You've got some houses here, some houses there, but like we didn't spend that much time in like the actual central town. It still felt very. There's just so much fucking space in America.
It's outrageous.
It's just there's just space, not like New York where everything's cramped in, but like just endless bits of space.
Yeah.
And it was hot, and everywhere.
It's far south, aren't you? Yeah.
My girlfriend's dad's now wife struggles to eat out in Florida because she has a very severe seafood allergy.
Oh,
but even if you go to a kitchen and say, "Oh, I have a severe seafood allergy," they're just like, "Well, no."
What, fish sauce and
We're just like we're not gonna change up the grill.
That's a no, man.
Yeah, it's like we're all living on the coast. We're in Florida. We're not going to change the grill. It's just a flat no. They're like, no, we can't promise that it's not going to contaminate. So it's like, oh, okay.
Speaking of restaurants, I texted you today with very exciting news that there's a New York-style bakery opening 2 minutes from where I live. And if anyone doesn't know, we actually once got asked a question about what's our sort of like recording protocol, like what happens when the cameras go off, what happens beforehand, which we should probably answer soon. I don't know if we ever answered that question.
What happens? I thought we
Someone
did say.
asked us,
I think we did answer, and we said that like sometimes I rush out and sometimes I.
Did we answer it fully? I don't think we did. But anyway,
Wait, did we
get
just read
bagels.
it, not read it out?
No, I don't think we ever got to the question for some reason.
Got to it. Wait, I feel like we're up to date on the emails. Have we missed it?
Maybe.
Guys, I will actually probably. I think it's worth saying at this point that we do get so many emails now that I don't think we can say that we can always cover 100% of them. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
We just want to be transparent. We do our best, but if your email doesn't get read out, it's not personal. It's not personal at all. It's just that we do struggle to keep on top of them. We will do our best. So all you can do is just keep it sharp, keep it short, and
send them in.
Keep it
Say
relevant.
hello at PulpKitchenPodcast.com.
.com.
But yeah, very exciting. New bagel spot opening near me. I walked past it today and they actually closed because they had a leak in the basement. Very exciting. But we will go.
Absolutely.
We're recording Sunday. We should go Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Yes, please.
Lunch?
If you don't mind. Well, anyway, it's good to have you back as ever. Episode 94 of Pulp Kitchen.
We're here.
The year of our birth.
94.
That's it. Represent. 94. It's feels like a special number for our episodes. 94, the year we were born. Also, year of great films. Pulp Fiction, Shawshank. I was about to say Forrest Gump. I mean, there are other ones. Name another movie that came out in 1994.
Jurassic Park's 93.
That's right. Oh, God.
94.
There's loads, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know there are loads. Does it? I don't know.
It was too early for the game.
Oh, True Lies. I like True Lies.
Leon, Natural Born Killers.
Clear and Present Daylight. Speed.
Clear and Present Danger.
Sorry.
Speed, Interview with the Vampire. Dumb and Dumber. Oh, Jim
Lion
Carrey's
King.
here. Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, and The Mask. Right, yeah. Brilliant.
Lion King.
Yeah. 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Aladdin, The Return of Jafar. Yeah, Forrest Gump.
Yeah, there's a good. Yeah, and that's a good
Don Juan.
reality.
4 Weddings and a Funeral.
The Flintstones live action.
Yeah, you said Shawshank. Junior with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh my God, yeah. Shallow Grave, Danny Boyle's first film. Anyway, there you go. So yeah, 94, episode 94, and we're talking about a new film and a re-release film this week. Let's take it away.
Okay, so just right out of the gate, I think The Nun II as a title is really silly.
The Nun II.
What do you mean The Nun II?
Yeah.
The Nun II. It sounds like a spoof with Charlie Sheen and Anna Faris. Like The Nun II.
Scary Movie 3,
That's when you go : Dead Reckoning or equivalent. If it's your second nun horror film.
Sometimes, just calling a film 2 can be really cynical. I think calling something 2 is better of like a comedy.
Yeah.
It's like, Shrek 2.
Rob Schneider is the nun. Also starring David Spade.
Yeah.
They're going to realize being a nun
you know what it
isn't so easy.
That sat on a executive scheduling for so long as working title, The Nun 2, that they went, when it got up to release, they thought, we haven't got something else. What? Okay, let's give it Roman numerals.
Yeah.
Not even The Nun Part 2.
Just
Nun Returns.
A big fat number
Not
2.
enough films do returns, by the way. I can only think of The Mummy and Mary Poppins.
The Nun Returns would be great.
And Superman.
Yeah, Nun : Spiritual Evil. Whatever you want to generic. Just The Nun 2 inherently sounds silly to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, The Nun II. I didn't see The Nun I.
Okay.
I was aware of the horror of The Nun from The Conjuring 2, of which the nun appears.
The more you say it, the stupider it sounds.
The Conjuring 2, I actually didn't really dislike. It starts, I think, fairly interesting, and then is doing what I think a lot of these popular horror franchise films do, and what The Nun II does, is they descend in the final act to this really action-heavy final boss thing that's neither interesting or scary.
Like a video game.
Do you know what? Yeah, it's like you get to the final act and the thing reaches all of their power. And you have to and it's setting things on fire and Jedi pushing people across the wall. That's not interesting. Anyway.
Like the end of, sorry to bring it up again, but It Chapter 2, do you remember? When
yes, it gets really, final boss.
Yeah, final boss
We
level,
all have to use our powers to and the MacGuffin, and you got to put it in the thing to kill the thing. Like, it stops being scary or interesting. And I've noticed a lot of the horror franchises do that. Anyway, The Nun II is the sequel to The Nun, which I haven't seen.
I got that from the title.
But the setup for The Nun II is the most the studio have asked us to make one I've ever seen. So, the nun is back, and the nun is killing people all around Europe. And this high-up man from somewhere in the Vatican who's eating steak on a dinner table calls in the woman who defeated the nun last time and goes, "You're not going to believe
what's
this."
happening.
I could hear the pitch meeting through this whole film. He was literally he didn't deliver it like this, but the byline of the undertone script is, "You're not going to believe this." Do you remember that last year when you defeated that evil nun? There was that huge spectacle exorcism and you did a bloody good job with it. Well, you're not going to believe this. She's only bloody back.
They should call it The Nun Returns.
And we thought you were just so good at dealing with it last time. Would you mind just do it again? Which is just like the studio saying, hey, that nun film that made a bunch of money from that other spin-off, why is she back? Just come back.
Reasons.
Just you can't ever really kill a demon.
Yeah.
You just send them away. I was just like, really? Is that it? Plot. The nun's killing people. It's after this sort of eye goggle thing. And,
Google Glass.
And all of the scary bits take place in the same bit underneath an old building. And after the third time, I'm like, oh, all the scary scenes going to be set when someone walks into this very dark, abandoned thing with old furniture. Yes. Like with a lot of these films, I'm not the first person to say this, it's not scary if I popped a balloon behind your ear and made you jump. And after the third little scare sequence, you just see them coming. Yeah. And what I was thinking about? We saw Barbie for 30 minutes in mute, just by happenstance of filming something in a cinema, and we sort of got to deconstruct it in a way for its purely visual merit and sort of see it almost like a storyboard. I really believe if you muted The Nun and you didn't have that screechy violin and just loud bangs, the film would completely lose its power. Yeah, it really would.
It's a really good test.
And I know I'm not the first person to say that it's just loud noises being shouted at you, but when you're actually looking at what's being done, nothing scary or anything that is scary is just repeated again and again. The only scare trick this film has is to have a character's face with an all-black shadow room, and the camera pans, and when it pans back, the nun's face is behind them, and it goes, bleh! and that's literally the only trick The Nun II has. And the first time, you're like, ooh. And it does it 3 or 4 times of the 7 or 8 times it does it in the film, and you're like, is that it? And there's other times it does it with a pan, and the film doesn't pan a lot. So when the camera does this really dramatic pan, I'm like, I wonder why it's panning so hard. So when it pans back, the nun's there going, bleh! And that's unfortunately it. It is just, therefore, really, really boring. I was none too impressed. Yeah. I was none too scared.
Brilliant. How much fun did you have?
None.
There you go.
Twice. And that's it. You know what? I think if you're after that kind of scare, go and rewatch the 2012 Daniel Radcliffe Woman in Black film.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was actually quite solid with Kieran Hines. Yeah, good atmosphere and just a great when he goes to that house and the woman in black is watching him from above. I just thought the whole of it was deeply unnerving and scary.
Yeah, I had a really good experience in the cinema with that. I went to a cinema screen that was packed, and it was a very vocal, reactive audience, which would sound annoying, but actually
works.
It really heightened it, and there's bits in that Woman in Black that's I've always still think are creepy. Like when he first gets to the house, he just looks out the window and she's just in the garden. Yeah, just staring at him. I just find that really creepy.
And in the house when he walks up, she's just a face there. And as soon as he's in the house, you just feel absolutely horrified.
What was scarier, The Nun II or Tar?
Tar.
Because you know what I'm saying?
gonna
Like,
say I
Tar
felt
has that
more
ghostly,
unsettled by Tar.
unsettling, and
Yeah,
Tar
a haunting of the soul.
And literally, Tar has a ghostly apparition that kind of haunts the
and
thing.
all the house scares in Tar.
Yeah.
Tar's scarier.
Yeah.
And just way more interesting.
But it's not a horror film.
Yeah. It's got nothing to say. It's just there. And again, I'll reiterate it. This fight that when you're trying to like go towards the final sequence, don't final boss your villain.
No.
And also now they're doing the sort of Alien thing where like you're giving me the backstory and telling me everything about your monster and showing your monster from the first 5 minutes that the illusion is lost.
I also think that with horror, CGI should just be kept way away from it. I found that with Evil Dead Rise. Like the more that CGI becomes involved and distorted voices and they try and I'm just like, I just immediately know it's fake. Whereas if you can do it with actual prosthetics or actual physical effects, that's what like, some of the stuff in Hereditary is pretty creepy because I know I'm not looking at an illusion.
Even in Insidious, which really started off the first Insidious, which started off this whole like franchising of horror, like sort of cookie cutter horror experience. I remember in the first Insidious film, you've got the red-faced man who's like the main thing that's stalking the kid, and then like 2/3 into that movie, they reveal this greater evil. When if you've seen it, you know, which is the old woman that would follow Patrick Wilson's character, and this mother was showing the photographs that she started taking. She noticed in every photograph the old lady was getting closer and closer to her son, and it's a really, really good scene. I encourage you to watch it. And at the end of Insidious, like, yes, the red-faced monster is there, but this second really, really creepy idea for a villain sneaks up on you, and it is very quite bang, but it's sort of like, oh, like that second bit really caught my attention. That concept of a demon that can only be seen in photographs, like getting close to your son, I think is a really scary one. And then in the following Insidious films, I haven't seen them all, they go on to explain the old woman and have her there and ruin it. I'm like, you had a thing that was interesting and scary, and you've just showed me everything about it. Anyway, I've gone on a bit of a rant. The film's a bit boring and very uninteresting. That's the Nun II.
If you had more fun than Nun, please email into hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. I would be intrigued to know if anyone liked it, if anyone enjoyed it, and not just based on your review. I'm just sort of giving a cursory glance across the reviews and stuff. I just don't. It's made a lot of money for the. It's done well. But yeah, let us know your thoughts.
Do you think a nun is like a very, as a symbol internationally, is like known? It's like, oh, corrupted, something that's meant to be for pure and angelic and wise.
It's also like
quite an easy concept to grasp onto.
Yeah, there's also like the threat, the female, but in a female, the female body and the female persona being sort of rendered in a very mysterious way. Nuns, depersonalized under the habit, if you will. But it's not Sister Act, is it?
No. Well, there you go.
So let's talk about Stop Making Sense, which is the 40th anniversary re-release of what is regarded as the greatest concert movie of all time. And we don't talk about music films a lot on this show, but we have talked about, last year we reviewed Moon Age Daydream, which was the David Bowie documentary, and the year before that we did Get Back, the Beatles documentary, which is actually funny because if someone was to, point blank say to me, what are your top 3 artists of all time? I would say Beatles, Bowie, and Talking Heads. Oh, wow. So we're very, very aptly, we're now
3 years.
There we go, bringing me to Stop Making Sense now. And anyone who has listened to the show regularly will know that when we often get asked that question of best cinematic experience, I will talk about having seen Stop Making Sense at the Duke of York's Theatre in Brighton in like 2015 with some mates, late night screening, seeing it for the first time, and by halfway through, we were all dancing in the aisles of the theatre.
Nice.
And it was just such a wonderful experience. And I've always wondered how I can top that. And I spoke a bit about it last week on the show, or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember, about I wanted to get tickets to the IMAX to see this re-release, right? And I couldn't, and I was really down about it. But lo and behold, the day before, some tickets had clearly been returned, and I was able to snatch 2 tickets to go see it in IMAX with my brother, which I went to see last night. Now, some of you might be thinking, what the hell has Stop Making Sense? I've never heard of it. Let me just explain it to you. So, concert movie made and directed by Jonathan Demme, who is a really, really good, accomplished director, and most people will know for going on to direct Silence of the Lambs, Philadelphia, but he also did interesting work like Rachel Getting Married, Melvin and Howard, Married to the Mob. And like I said, it is regarded as the greatest concert film of all time, and it's a collaboration and, it is a gig, a concert of Talking Heads, the band. James, Talking Heads?
No, not really.
Not even a song?
Off the top of my head, no.
Anyway, I'll give you context. So, and stop making sense. Talking Heads were this band, post-punk band, came in the late 70s and, reached their fame in the kind of the mid 80s as this post-punk art rock group that delivered really, I just think really great music, and a lot of people really liked it. Took a very interested, slightly intellectual approach to music, and worked with the likes of Brian Eno and David Byrne as a cultural figure, as an artistic figure, who's the lead singer of Talking Heads, is a really interesting guy, and he's done theatre, and he won an Oscar for writing the score for Last Emperor, and it was clear that when they made this film, it was a good collaboration with Demme. And so what happened is Jonathan Demme went to see them touring, and this was like in the height of Talking Heads' fame and prowess. And he said, I want to make this into a movie. And they said, okay, let's do it. And they worked together visually and artistically to create this movie. And 40 years later, A24 have picked it up and restored it meticulously into 4K. And it's being re-released around the world. And I think by the time this episode comes out, there are more screenings at the IMAX showing, nice. And there will be across the country and across the world being released into cinemas as well. So if you do get a chance to go and see this on the big screen. And I will say this from the get-go, obviously, as a Talking Heads fan, this film appeals to me massively. But I think if you're a fan of music, if you're a fan of the intersection between music, cinema, and theatre as well, this would be for you. And I hope it doesn't come across too much like Man in the Pub, 3 pints in, being like, I love this band in the 80s, and they brought that movie out again.
I think there's also quite a lot of IMAX re-releases coming out right now, because they're still showing Oppenheimer in a lot of them.
Yes.
But because there's nothing new out and a lot of films are being delayed, what could be a benefit to a lot of people is the re-releasing of great films in IMAX, and not just things that are planned, but I mean they will bring back the things that they have actual film runs of, like all your known films will come, and loads of older films.
And I found with watching this, it was a really interesting experience seeing a film that was not purpose made for IMAX.
Yeah,
because obviously we're so used to seeing your Nolans and things like that. It was shot for scale, but there is something about seeing a film, regardless of, that was not shot for something of this size, being blown up that big, which is still amazing. Another thing that people might have culturally, stop making sense, still is referenced many times. It's iconic for a scene where, a number where David Byrne reappears on stage in a huge grey suit and sort of dances in it. Fred Armisen did a sketch about it for Documentary Now, and the 1975 did a whole music video meticulously spoofing every single thing. I'm not a 1975 person, but I know many people are, so I thought I'd mention it. Anyway,
I feel like when we draw such lines in the sand, people write in.
Sure.
I mumbled under my breath like 4 weeks ago that I thought Taylor Swift was the most overrated music artist out.
Did you actually say that? I didn't catch that.
George, exactly. I mumbled it under my breath.
Wow.
And I got like 2 DMs, and someone mentioned it in an email.
Wow.
I think I'll cut what I just said, because I think
it's going to happen again.
People are going to come after me.
Anyway,
I'll beep it.
But I wanted to talk about it because directed by Jonathan Demme, really important. And also, we don't talk about concert films a lot. Some people call it a documentary. It is a concert film, and it's regarded so highly. Anyway, I go to see it. I watch it in IMAX. I sit down, and James, I fucking loved it.
Oh,
I was beaming from ear to ear.
Should I go and see it?
Bathing. If you can get tickets to go see it in IMAX,
do you think it will be...
I would be really interested to see...
Are there non-IMAX screenings going?
Yeah.
If I can't do that.
Yeah, of course. But I think if you get the opportunity to see this film in IMAX, there is no better way of seeing it.
Yeah.
I think that it would be interesting to see what you think, not being a Talking Heads fan, not knowing the songs. It's not a narrative film. You're watching a gig. But I think, and for reasons I'll explain, it works so well on the big screen, and I think it's just like pure electricity. I mean, I love the music anyway, and all day today I've just been like on cloud 9, just listening to. I listened to it on the way here. It's just fantastic. Nice. So one of the reasons I think it works so well is that everything about the presentation of the film is clean, deliberate, precise, and focused, and so sharp. It's that I remember reading about Talking Heads, and that when they were starting as a band, what they did is they decided all the things they didn't want to do with music, and they stripped out all the junk they didn't want to do out of habit or do accidentally. So one thing they did is they took out all cliches. They never wanted to say the word baby in a song or ooh la la or took out all these things that are used in other songs.
Yeah.
And so that's why when you listen to the Talking Heads song, it's like the lyrics are very particular and very precise and not imitable. You know, if that's the right thing. Yeah,
it's its own thing.
It is its own thing, absolutely. And what Jonathan Demme has done, and what the genius of Stop Making Sense is that he's been able to render cinematically almost the equivalent. He's been able to take what is a live event, a live concert, which, you know, in its essence is chaotic, raucous, sweaty. There's a lot of sweat in this film, but all over the place. And he's been able to, through great cinematic language I'll talk about, has been able to cut through the noise and give you a really sharp, precise, amplified, heightened musical experience. There are, just talking like visually, so the way it begins is that the stage is an unmade stage. I'm talking there are, you know, scaffolding in the background, there's rigging, it's completely exposed. And the camera follows a pair of white shoes walking on to the center of the stage, and then a boombox is placed and the tape is played. The camera tracks up and you just see a microphone. And then David Byrne's head appears into the frame and starts playing acoustically Psycho Killer. And he plays that song and gets it going. And then for the next number, Tina Weymouth, the bass player, comes on and joins him. And then for the next number, the Jerry Harrison on guitar comes on. And in the background, little by little, slowly and with purpose, the grips are just building the set bit by bit. And over the course of about the first 6 songs, the stage is being assembled around you. And actually, it continues to be built throughout the whole gig. It's only a 90-minute film. So that by one of the numbers towards the end, there's literally like domestic furniture on the stage. There's a lamp, there's an armchair. The backdrop comes down. And it kind of creates this kind of narrative. But so in terms of the framing, it's that precise, and all the clothing is very detailed. You know, I'm saying stuff that in terms of stage design and concert design is probably taken for granted now, but seeing it kind of in this 40-year-old time bubble is really interesting. So all of them were dressed in very simple grey clothing, whether it's like sweat gear or just suits. To give it the great focus, and then when you shoot that with the camera right down the middle, and you have very precise lighting and very precise shadows and very deliberate spacing of people, it makes fantastic visual frames. To the point where there were individual shots, I thought I could just pause that right there and look at that. It's so powerful, and I'm like, that is so clean as an image for a concert, which you associate with. I mean, compare it to do you remember the footage of Freddie Mercury at Live Aid with all like the Pepsi drinks and stuff? Like, forget that. This is so deliberate. And each individual song is shot with like a different cinematic language. So during Life During Wartime, which is one of the songs, it's tight close-up, lots of uplit, dark shadows to distort the face, and creates this great illusion. And when he shoots the bass player, Tina Weymouth, her hair is like going across the camera, but the frame is fixed. Whereas when he does Once in a Lifetime, it's all one shot, almost exactly the whole thing, holds it on one shot. In Swamp, there's direct address to the camera and this bright red light behind it. So every single number, Demme is shooting it in a different language. What he also does is great eye for moments of humor and fun, interaction between the band members. Like the amount of fun that they are having on stage is so infectious. You've got band members dancing with each other, interacting, looking at each other, winking, having a little joke, running around the stage, but all in a way that is so well done. So as an aesthetic approach to making a film about music, it's really, really interesting. I think also what I noticed is that in the editing, the gaps between each song got shorter and shorter and shorter. So in the third act, as it were, and you could actually draw with a pencil the act marks in this film, and there is a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the third act is where Byrne comes on stage in this huge suit, and I was like, they are cutting so quickly towards the end to give it this sense of pace that you can't help but just feel kind of swept up by this music. It's wall-to-wall music.
Yeah.
There's also this very deliberate thing where they barely show the audience. They show the audience a little bit as at a distance at the beginning, but at the end, when you're in the final song, Cross-Eyed and Painless, and you're cutting between all the activity on the stage, Demme then cuts from the stage seamlessly to members of the audience dancing, and it's this great idea of like this ensemble piece that the audience are part of the band as well.
So they're like withheld a little bit until the end.
Exactly. It's almost like they are the last part of the band.
That's probably in a way to sort of, you're the audience for most of it, but towards the end it's almost to get you to like, join in with the rest of them.
And honestly, my TikTok today was full of, a bit like I was in Brighton when I watched it, like full of people getting up and dancing in the last act.
Full screening?
Sorry?
In your screening, was
Not,
it full?
I mean, well, a full, absolutely full in my screening, and a real cross section of people of ages, and
I saw you posted a slap bang in the middle on our Instagram story at PULP KITCHEN podcast of where you were. And I thought, he's got good seats.
I've got
he's
great
excited.
seats. And honestly, if the the IMAX is so vertically challenged, there's no
really
floor space. But I guarantee, if there was more floor space, more people would have got up and danced. Everybody clapped after a song, because it seemed tentatively at first, because I think people were a bit shy, but like, I know I'm clapping for a film, but by the end, people were hooping and hollering, and so was I, because it feels strange not to. And the fact is, you're listening to music. I think the way I thought about it is this: is that you are listening to excellent music executed by a band who are at the height of their powers. Captured by a director who is at a point in his career. At a point in his career when he was really flexing his creativity and trying something new. And just sitting there in that presence is amazing. Now, I do realize I'm at the risk of over-intellectualizing this, because part of this is just shut up and listen to the music, which it absolutely can do. But I had such a great time in the presence of it. And I loved seeing the scale of it, Brendan, but it wasn't so... It made me think that with films you love, it doesn't matter if they're not shot for IMAX. You can see... I would love to see Before Sunset on IMAX.
Yeah.
Because you are just noticing little details. And I think it's just got that fun, propulsive, kinetic energy. And I think that approach that like I said, that cuts through the noise that Demi has about this clean focus. It's an artistic collaboration between him and the band. I say it's with Jonathan Demme, but like it's a collaboration, and I think that's why it stands the test of time as as the greatest concert film of all time. I would, if you have time to go see it in IMAX.
I'm very much sold. I mean, guys, if you've not been sold,
I hope I am selling, because I realize this is niche. But what was great is that Talking Heads are a reasonably famous band.
Yeah. But
that was great being sat. I was sat next to a guy who's probably in his 60s, and he was singing along like me. And what's another thing I love, I think it will win you over, because there were songs that I didn't like. But when I saw this for the first time, I was then completely won over. Swamp in particular is a song that, if you hear it out of context, doesn't make any sense.
I found with music, I've listened to albums where a song is very much lost on me until I either watch a documentary about it or see the music video. And I'm like, oh, it actually didn't weirdly come across fully in the audio, or very much like in a sequence in an album.
But that's it, because that's what music videos and visual stuff is there for, is that stickability, to create a contextual relationship.
Pink Floyd, I always found that, like, certain songs were lost on me for years until I really understood them, and I was like, oh, it's genius.
Anyway, I say this, that if you get a chance to go see it, if you love music, you'll like it. If you love Talking Heads, why haven't you seen it already? But do not miss this. If you like Talking Heads, or just a fan of music anyway, do not miss this opportunity to see it on the big screen. And look, I understand if you don't like the band, or it's just not for you, whatever. But I'm excited to see it again, because I didn't know I was going to get these IMAX tickets. We've booked the entire front row of one of the screenings at the Prince Charles with me and my mates.
Oh, you're going again?
I'm going again,
Oh,
because I didn't know I was going to get these IMAX tickets.
Oh, nice.
And I thought, you know what, I don't mind at all. I'm really looking forward to having fun with my mates. I just hope we can move a bit and sing along a bit, because it sometimes feels a bit restrained to see in the cinema. James, I would be really interested if you went to see it. Like, it's only 90 minutes.
I'm going to have a look. I'll have a look later and see if I can get tickets, because you very much sold me on it. I believe you.
Can I add one also interesting caveat that happened? So one thing that was great about seeing it and this particular screening is that they were adding on a live stream from the Toronto Film Festival, where for the first time in 21 years, Talking Heads reunited to be in the same room with each other for a Q&A about the film. So Talking Heads had a very sort of acrimonious breakup towards the end of the 80s, I think, or maybe early 90s. And, David Byrne left the band, and, but obviously he was the creative driving force of it. And they kind of went on. And over the past 30 years, it's been one of those things. It's like the band, they've never reunited. The only time they were all together again was once in 2002 when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And if you look at clips from that, it's very awkward and stagey. And there was a lot of resentment amongst that group. However, time heals all wounds. Tensions have thawed out. Even only recently, some of the band members were writing autobiographies and sort of, slacking off other people in it. But one of the great things was to see them all together in one room for a Q&A session with Spike Lee. However, as nice as it was to see them all together, and they did share a laugh, and they did talk about their love of cinema and their love of the film, I would say the Q&A was a disaster because, well, what happens when this Q&A was taking place in an IMAX theatre in Toronto, right? So the audience are all there, and they've just watched the film. What happens if you take 4 people who are now in their late 60s, early 70s, who haven't spent a lot of time with each other in the past 20 years, put them in a room full of 200 people just vertically staring at you?
Quite a lot.
Yeah. Moderated by Spike Lee. Look, Spike Lee, good directors, made some great films. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Do the Right Thing, wonderful film. He's like 70 now. He is not the most articulate person to have moderating a session. And there were so many awkward pauses. Spike Lee would do this thing where he would go, "Talking heads, so how did you find the movie?" And you can see the band members being like, and nobody wanted to talk over the other because it was clear that they had like put the past behind them, and nobody wanted to be like the loudest voice or answering all the questions. And then he'd be like, and then they would start talking, and Spike Lee would go, "Yeah, man, Bernie Worrell, give it up for Jonathan Demme, everybody clap, okay. And Tina, what was your favorite song?" Like that. And then, of course, you cut to these band members who are in their late 60s and 70s now, and they're like, "Well, the thing was, what we realized back in 80, was it 83 or was it 84? I think it was 84. And honestly, a couple of moments were like, okay, Nan, it's time for your dinner. Let's get you to bed now, my goodness." And there was a slight like taking away of the veneer of the illusion that we'd just seen this wonderful concept film, and then we're seeing them like grey-haired and a bit doddery, with Spike Lee, who is also seemingly a bit doddery, just saying like, and it was all over the place. They had like live streamed questions come in, and Spike Lee would be like, "This question's from Barry in Long Island, Strong Island represent. Hey, what do you like why'd you guys last so long? The music is so great." And then like Tina Weymouth, the bassist, completely misheard the question. She went, "No, we're much less like blues. We're more like jazz." And everyone in the audience was laughing. We were laughing at this sort of derailment of this moment. Everyone was so excited to see the band reunite, and it just went completely off the rails. Anyway, it finished and everyone just laughed. But that was just like a funny postscript. And I thought I'd mention it because Spike Lee did it as well. Anyway, that film, as I just said, is Stop Making Sense. If you're convinced, if I've convinced you to go see it and you fancy giving it a try, let me know what you think. Let us know what you think to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com.
I saw this interview that went viral with Spike Lee. The year that Green Book won.
Oh, I love it. I know exactly the bit you're talking about.
Where they asked, I think he'd won an Oscar for...
He's talking to Colin Patterson from BBC News. Yeah.
They asked him, like, he's clutching an Oscar. What did he win for? Best director?
I think he won Best Screenplay for Black Klansman.
Right, yeah.
And they were like, and what do you think of Green Book?
What do you think of Green Book? And he went, "Are you British?
Yeah.
Are you guys British?" Yeah. Let's just say, "It wasn't my cup of tea."
Yeah. And he finds it so funny. He's like, "Not my cup of tea." Spike Lee is always very stylish, though. Every time I see him, I'm always like, "Man, great fits."
Yeah, he's got iconic silhouette. You could spot him from the silhouette.
Yeah. Not so great as a moderator, though. Actually, sorry, there is one last thing. The relevance of Spike Lee being there is because Spike Lee directed and produced American Utopia, which was David Byrne's second/most recent concert film in 2020, which is also very, very good. But Stop Making Sense is iconic. There we go.
Guys, there you go.
So guys, it's that part of the episode where we read out your emails from the Sirens. And this week we have emails, well, what haven't I said? You can, remember guys, you can send your emails into hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, just like Bennett has. Bennett, friend of the show Bennett, who's written in many times in a fantastically, impeccably formatted email.
We've got bold, we've got italics, that's it.
We've also got faded sort of, subscript near the bottom. Hi guys, I love the work you've been putting out lately. Thank you for the latest strike episode and for the shout out therein. I appreciate therein. That's a good use of word there. I appreciate how you've used your platform to disseminate information on the strikes and why they matter. Today, I was doing some dishes, and since I was out of a new episode to listen to, I went all the way back and listened to your Dune Part 1 episode.
Nice.
Well, yeah, that was early days.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this film a lot, and now that Part 2 has been delayed, and I was wondering, first question, to each of you, when talking about a film based on a book, does the book matter? Why or why not? He goes on to say, I used to think that the books did matter a lot because I grew up a Harry Potter fan, but Dune Part 1 forced me to reassess this point of view. My opinion now is that the book doesn't matter at all when discussing the qualities of the film because these two artistic mediums are entirely different and serve audiences differently. When discussing it with my friends who all love Dune Part 1, what I heard was, well, if you read the books, you'd know I hate actually when people do that. Yeah. And my response was and my response was always, well, if the movie requires that I do homework to enjoy it, it's not a good film. It's the same thing that when we did the Marvel thing, when we were like, the multiverse is killing the MCU, and people were like, oh, well, it's all like that in the comics. We're like, well, we're not talking about the comics, are we?
No, it was this Clone Wars for Star Wars
as well. No, there was also the same.
Was it?
You've made the point a few times. I think if an adaptation caters to the reader and not to the viewer, it is serving the wrong audience. This is something I think the Harry Potter filmmakers understood, even when they split Deathly Hallows into two parts. To that end, if a filmmaker is adapting a book to screen, do you think it is more important to prioritize being true to the book or to make a good film? It's always a pleasure to email you too. I hope you enjoyed reading this one. Also, as someone who worked in the industry in LA, if you have any strike-related questions, please let us know. Happy to connect you both. All the best, Bennett. If I may jump in,
Please.
Well, if I may jump in, this was the subject of my dissertation. Well, my dissertation module, I should say. So my final year of studying film, we covered the whole topic of adaptation. And I absolutely, this idea of being true to the book has run through the discussion of adaptation studies. It's the fidelity argument. It's like this idea of should a film be true to the book, and of course it shouldn't.
Yeah.
A film, as you say, Bennett, they're completely different mediums, and all that does is limit the film's possibility. There have been fantastic adaptations of books that have almost bear no relation to the original. There Will Be Blood is based on a book.
I was going to say, films that you don't even know are based on books that really seem to graduate from the text. Yeah. Not disrespect it, but it's like, it's taken that and it's clearly gone to do its own thing. Whereas I say Harry Potter, as you said, is a much more one-to-one adaptation. And
one thing we looked at with adaptation studies is like, you've got to start to think about it in a different way, which is, I can't remember, there was one like famous critic, academic who wrote about this, but it's like, we think of the idea as being originating in the original text, the book, right? And then it's like the film comes after it. It's like, no, the idea is this sort of centralized thing, and it has been expressed in one medium as the book. Is a separate thing. And the film is another expression of that centralized idea.
TV show also.
TV show, musical, poem, poster. But then I could go on.
The Game of Thrones people get probably most annoyed, and the people who haven't read the books even more annoyed, is because Game of Thrones starts fairly, not one-to-one, but like, on the same beats. And then I think we realised that it had to depart because of the pace of writing. It splits off and for the worst.
I think the book...
I think Dune, Dune really feels like it's not that I've read the book, but from what I've seen of like its content, it seems to have really like jumped off the page in that sense in its own cinema.
Yeah, I think so, but I think it's also got a lot of plot to get through. It's a bit plotty.
It is, families and dynamics.
Free yourselves, filmmakers, and engage with books in a different way.
This next one is from Simon, who writes in and says, hello chaps, big fan of the show, especially enjoy your games at the end. After hearing your latest episode where you tried to guess non-sequel superhero films, I noticed quite a few films you didn't mention. Firstly is My Super Ex-Girlfriend, starring Uma Thurman and Luke Wilson. Yeah. I completely have not thought about that film.
Isn't it? Because it's trash. It's not
it's not great, but like, it was there. But like, is that a superhero film?
Yeah, it is.
Is Hancock a superhero film? That's another one that was in the comments.
Does a superhero film have to be attached to an existing IP to be superhero? Does it have to be based on
a comic?
Yeah. Carry on.
Secondly, the James Gunn directed Super, and also, quite frankly, awful superhero movie, which would have made a brilliant cast as Countdown, by the way. But lastly, as you mentioned, Fan Four Stick.
I was actually going to say, I think somebody else might have commented this or whatever, but do you remember that film Push?
Oh my God,
with Chris Evans and Dakota Fanning,
Houndsoo as well. Yeah,
like pre Marvel kind of like weird.
They could push things.
That was like the you remember Heroes, the TV show? That I think was like that era of superheroes where we were starting to get interested in people with powers.
Yeah.
You know?
The pre-08 superhero era
time.
is actually quite an interesting phenomenon. God, push. But lastly, as you mentioned Fan 4 Stick, I feel I have to mention Chronicle, which is Josh Trank's film that arguably landed him the aforementioned train wreck of a movie. Keep up the good work, boys. All the best. Simon, sent from my Nokia 8110. Yes, the one Neo uses in The Matrix. Chronicle was one of those found footage films that... You're like, why is this being filmed?
Yeah.
Sometimes,
why is this found
like
footage?
when he's like, Dane DeHaan's character is being abused by his dad and he's like filming himself crying. Like, there's no way this would be filmed. But they did do this cool thing where they were holding the camera up with their kinetic powers.
Yes.
And I always thought that was quite cool. But a lot of stuff, I'm like, come on, no. Young Michael B. Jordan in there too.
And the other guy. Next up is Daniel, who writes in and says, "Hello, lads. I've been listening to you for the past 2 months while I'm out on my break from university and working as a delivery driver. I can easily say that you have helped me make the job so much more fun and drag a lot less. Unless you are dragging in the Tokyo Drift kind of sense of the word as a delivery driver, which I'd love to see. I am an architecture student going into the final year of my master's, and as I plan to write my dissertation, I would like to share the premise and perhaps get your opinion on it at the same time. I'll try to keep it short. More films than ever are being made to symbolize the contemporary world we live in, focusing on certain themes, whether it be the impending doom of the climate crisis, symbolized in Don't Look Up, or the environmental destruction we are seeing in Avatar. Allegories such as these are being used so much more, and I believe that is these films with hidden meanings and connotations of the climate crisis can be used as a catalyst to spark user research in the correct environment. Okay. For example, I watched The Hunt for Red October, in which the Soviets developed a new type of submarine, and because that impacted that film on me, I then researched how submarines work. Without that film, I would not have found this out. The film became a catalyst for research. Okay. I intend to present a film list alongside my reading list in the architecture curriculum, and maybe in the future it will branch off into other subjects, but it could act as a non-formal way to teach the importance of the climate crisis in education on all education levels. Interesting. I would like to know, in your opinion, your opinion of this theory, and if you have any film suggestions for films that have either allegory, hidden connotations, symbolism, or metaphor for the climate crisis. Sorry for the long email. Look forward to your reply. Crikey, that's a bloody academic seminar written in there.
I'd have to think. Lord of the Rings is a real like anti-industrialization of like the protection of the countryside and.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Empire destroying the pastoral and everything.
I'm trying to think. Climate change.
A lot of them are.
Pocahontas. No,
it's like The Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Really
uses the language of an action movie. I guess I would say this isn't a metaphor, but a film that touched on the climate crisis in a completely different way was the film First Reformed, which is the Paul Schrader film. Came out a few years ago. Really good.
Yeah.
With Ethan Hawke as a really tormented pastor in America, and Amanda Seyfried she's one of his congregation, comes to him and says like, my husband is an environmental terrorist, really, or an environmental protester. And he's just been released from prison, but he has such dark thoughts about the environment. Would you come and speak to him? And Ethan Hawke goes and visits him, and they have this kind of 15-minute duologue about the state of the planet, and Ethan Hawke coming at it from a religious, spiritual point of view, theological point of view, and her and Amanda Seyfried's husband talking in a very sort of matter-of-fact, cynical, environmental way, and then that thread then like affects Ethan Hawke's character for the rest of the film. I don't know how that invites user research, but like that talks about climate change in a completely like reframed way.
I always think greed is human greed is a really good one. Like There Will Be Blood, and like even a film I haven't seen yet, which is Killers of the Flower Moon. That's going to be about like, taking things
rapacious
and
greed.
That deep, insatiable appetite to conquer and consume.
You know what I'm going to say? Dark Waters.
Oh yeah.
Again, it's not like a symbol, but like as I've said this before, that film just has basically like enshrined in my mind. It really helps. That film characterizes greed and sort of corporate violence and corporate excess and corporate unaccountability.
Wall Street even.
Yeah, that doesn't have an environment.
Different,
but Dark
no
Waters, you see they invite like the cost of it.
Yeah,
there's more cost in that.
The effect of corporations on everyone. Yeah. It's a big question. This last one is from Finn, who says, "Hey, you too. Finn here, a listener from Switzerland. I've seen clips of your games on my TikTok for you page and liked you two from the start, but haven't listened to an episode until recently. Now, I'm listening through a lot. I'm sending this email after the Tarantino bonus, and it reminded me of going to the cinema a few months ago because they showed Pulp Fiction again, like some special screening where people can vote for movies they want to see again on the big screen.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it for ages, and my reaction was the same as George. There are films that I'm really sad I couldn't see in cinemas because I wasn't old enough or even alive when they came out, like Pulp Fiction, Whiplash, or the Lord of the Rings films. So my question, what film you missed out on would you like to see in the cinemas? I brought this up earlier. Sending lots and love to the UK, Finn. Von Meinman iPhone gesendet.
Well, we've recorded something that will come out, I think, next week. A bonus for future,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's not
bonus for next Friday.
Week. It's not this Friday coming, for next Friday.
Yeah.
Where we talk about how we would have loved to have seen Alien and/or Aliens
In the big screen.
in the big screen.
Recently came out on IMAX. Re-released on IMAX.
Obviously, my whole diatribe about Stop Making Sense just now is about my thrill of that is being able to see that film on the biggest screen possible. Yeah. I do think Pulp Fiction is something I would have loved to have been in the theatre and just thought, what is this film
Experiencing
doing?
it at the moment in time as well.
I mean, there's obviously like
I
historical
mean,
stuff.
you'll be able to see that in cinema again.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously, like, if you had a time machine, yes, I guess it would be interesting to go back and watch The Exorcist with a new audience, or just go and see.
Exorcist, because we did a whole thing.
Yeah,
on it,
yeah, and
the
also
reaction.
the first Star Wars, I guess,
Second Star Wars, really. I think
Empire.
the reaction to Empire Strikes Back would be more
Yeah,
profound than
but it's
the
like,
first one.
what would you? It's another way of framing that question is like, what old film would you like to see presented again on the big screen?
A lot of Kubrick stuff would have been amazing to
Oh,
experience.
yeah.
And like to come in with one idea and leave with that impression, I just think would be great.
Yeah, I think any film that has tries to do something bold or new, seeing that fresh.
Parasite.
Yeah, true. Parasite, great
I've
shout.
only seen that film once, and I just still that was one of those incredibly rare times when I saw it, and I was like immediate 5 stars for that film.
Yeah.
Immediate understanding that film is something special. Yeah, I mean, and I do feel like even seeing like Interstellar in IMAX felt really
That
special.
was a great experience. And like at the time, seeing Force Awakens come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was nothing like that.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
think
That was an
culture-
event.
Yeah. It was a real like peak of pop culture pre-COVID. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I know obviously
Brexit and Trump
people will
haven't
probably
yet.
talk about Barbie and Oppenheimer, but like we
Avengers. I'll give it to the Avengers as well.
Yeah, but I think Force Awakens was an event
Yeah.
that was really exciting. I have
Yeah.
to say, even whatever happened with it, like
I don't think there's been anything near the excitement that we had for that. The prospect of what could come was crazy.
And it looked really good, and it was good. The Force
Yeah, The
Awakens,
Force
is,
Awakens
a
is
good movie.
good.
So this my brother's
It's a good,
my
safe
brother's
movie.
just shown Star Wars for the first time to his girlfriend. And
Star Wars 4.
4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
And she really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
She knew about Darth Vader being the father, but she
course.
didn't know about Luke and Leia.
Okay.
And I said neither did the writers when they started, right? But then my brother was like, so we got to watch 7, 8, 9 now. I said, do you though? He was like, but The Force Awakens, George, it's so good. I'm like,
Do you not go to 1, 2, 3?
no, they've decided that he just thinks they're just pointless. And I'm careful when I say this because we've talked about the prequels before, and I'm aware, especially amongst Gen Z, the prequels are
They've
held in a completely different regard.
Yes, yeah.
But can I say, I saw this film
It's
when
become
I was
cool.
a child,
Yeah.
and I can tell you that even like, people, but nostalgia. Yeah, even as a child, I was like, these are shite.
I'm quite clear on this. There are some great all-time Star Wars moments
absolutely.
in those very
Don't get me
terrible
wrong.
films.
Yeah.
I'm very clear.
Yeah.
I can talk romantically
Yeah.
about individual scenes.
Yeah.
But when you sit down and watch them, they are shit.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
They are shit. And I know it's not cool to hate on the prequels, but you do. I've said this like 3 times on the podcast. Redo the prequels.
Yeah, I know.
Just wipe the slate
I know there's
clean.
people out there, probably the same people who think the Monsters University is great, are screaming that's for this right now. But I don't know. I said to him, I was like, Rogue One you can see because it's isolated on its own.
Yeah,
And
anytime.
you know what? Actually, he was like, shall I show her Force Awakens? I was like, if you want, but I don't think you need to see it 8 and 9. Just watch the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian.
Talia's only seen 7. She's seen 4, 5, 6, and she watched 7. And she knew my reaction coming out of 8 and then again at 9. And she can't get the will to watch them because she kind of has heard me just say it fizzles out into nothing.
I guess that's fine.
It's very shame.
Last email from Sam, who says, hello, lads. It's your running correspondent here again.
Yes,
Do you remember Sam the runner?
running around the world.
Rocking all over the road.
I wanted to run.
I was a running. My mama said they were my magic shoes. And as requested from my last message, here is a photo of me running while listening to the pod.
Okay, so he's got the... Okay, so first of all, so the photo Sam's attached. He's got a hat on backwards, massive Oakleys with the red to purple hue, and then you've got a pink vest with an over vest with a camelback sucky on there. So you are not just a casual... weekend runner.
Oh, no, he's a marathon runner.
Yeah. No, I know he's a marathon, but like you were wearing the attire of a man, and you got the smartwatch on there as well.
Also, with a lovely big beaming grin.
A huge beaming grin. That really does. You got the assignment perfectly. And send us your phone number just in case we want to call you.
Anyway, so sorry. Sam says, it's your running correspondent here again, and as requested, blah blah. Here's a photo of me running. This running was during the London heat wave, and even though this was at the start of it, it really was sweltering. And a good thing I had you guys to distract me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Sam says, I also wanted to ask a question while I'm here. I am positive this is one you might not have had. So here we go. What films will you watch to get pumped up? Oh yeah, you're such a runner. Pumped up, motivated, inspired for something. Whether this is before a sports event at school or a pitch before a big meeting. I think there is a whole host of amazing options here. Films that just make you feel like you can conquer the world after seeing them. For me, there's always a very strong argument for any kind of courtroom drama where the protagonist is proved successful, especially in the face of defeat, like Gregory Peck's final speech in To Kill a Mockingbird.
A Few Good Men.
A Few Good Men is a big one. For me, of course, the real answer would be Any Given Sunday. If you know, you know. Al Pacino's rousing inches speech that never fails to get the blood pumping and makes you feel like you can do anything. You can see it in the characters' faces during the speech and the energy they have when sprinting out the dressing room and slamming the door as they go. I would love to hear your choices for this and what they would be. And if you have any suggestions for these types of films, I will let you know how the marathon goes and look forward to many more pods to help me pass the time.
Sam, if you're listening to this while you're running, keep going.
You bloody do it, my friend.
Left, right, left.
There we go. To answer your question, Sam, I don't really associate watching films to pump me up. That's something music will do. But just reading that...
Feeling elated or... I'd say like...
No, I think if I want the testosterone and a bit of like, let's go, I'd probably say it's Whiplash.
Yeah, Whiplash good. I was going to say The King's Speech. Because I have a voice!
Oh, yes.
Like when the way the music... Yeah, I have received. Yeah.
And will be concurrently.
Yeah.
Because I'm bloody well stammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. At the end, that's rousing. But isn't that more like...
I always like it when he puts all the marbles in his mouth. He's like, bloody choked to death on the damn thing.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, any sort of like triumph over adversity, like things like that, will get you pumped up. I think.
And the music at the end of King's Speech, it's like the swell of British, and yes, the war is ahead of us, but we will endure. I don't know.
No, I think that kind of works. I don't because film's such a long, a song can get you pumped up in 3 minutes, but film, I guess, is a deeper level.
Musicals that get you there?
Maybe a big hard action film.
Yeah, like The Raid
or The Rock with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you remember that? Yeah, it's quite, it's silly. Yeah. I love The Rocket Man. Do you remember that? Have you heard the Elton John song, The Rocket Man?
Yeah,
so stupid.
National Treasure always pulling off a great heist.
Yeah, any Mission Impossible film surely will get you pumped. Especially Dead Reckoning Part 2, actually.
Yeah.
Because the way that ends.
Yeah.
There you go, Sam.
Dad, you gotta get the treasure. I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Thank you very much for your emails there, everyone. We really appreciate them. Again, don't forget, continue to send them in to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. I know I said at the top of the show that we do struggle to get to them. And, there are the odd few that we might not get to. But again, we will try. We will read them.
We read everyone.
Send them in. Undoubtedly, we will try and get to them. On to the end of the show. James, we're going to end this episode with one simple round of a game, which is an old favourite, of course. It is Castless Countdown.
Nice.
I'm going to read the cast of a movie, and you have to see if you can guess what the movie is by the time we get to the end of the cast. Okay. So you know the drill, you know everyone. Play along at home. Okay. This is what I'm happy I've remembered this. Okay. Here we go. So, guess the movie based on its cast in 3, 2, 1. Ewan McGregor, Abigail Breslin, Margot Martindale,
It's not Beauty and the Beast.
Dermot Mulrooney, Juliette Lewis, Benedict Cumberbatch, Sam Shepard, Chris Cooper, Julia Roberts,
Whoa.
and lastly, Meryl Streep. Do you have any idea what that movie is?
Julia Roberts and Meryl Streep. Do I know this? Is it Julie and Julia?
No.
No.
One more time. It's Ewan McGregor, Abigail Breslin, Margot Martindale, Dermot Mulrooney, Juliette Lewis, Benedict Cumberbatch, Sam Shepard, Chris Cooper, Julia Roberts, and Meryl Streep. That is the now much forgotten film August Osage County, which came out in 2013. And when I was Googling this film to prep the cast list, the first question that comes up on Google is, what was the point of the movie August Osage County? Do you remember this? Meryl Streep got an Oscar nomination for it.
Yeah,
it was
of course
like
she did.
Southern set, based on a play, family wake, someone's died. And Benedict Cumberbatch is doing a slightly wonky American accent. Oh God, I missed Uncle Ben's funeral. It's got randomly Ewan McGregor's in it as well, and then you've got these other actors. I remember Juliette Lewis, and I hadn't seen her in anything for a while. Julia Roberts, hello, Meryl Streep, doing the sort of matriarch of the family, but never seen it though.
No.
But do you remember it?
Yeah, like the title really rings a
I'm gonna
bell.
show you
Show me a poster.
You will. It was an Oscar. It was one of those films that gets talked about a lot in the Oscars of that year. And then you never
one
hear
sees
it.
it. There always are those Oscar films that nobody heard of till it got nominated and no one sees. Yeah, oh my God, I remember that poster. That's where you get the cast list. The cast list.
And also the famous one was this one where they're squabbling over like they're like in the. Do you remember that?
Oh right, yeah. What's it? Not that we know to comment on these, but what's its Rotten Tomatoes score?
I bet it's high. 66.
Yeah.
That's not ideal.
No, it means nothing.
Look, I haven't seen it, so I don't want to comment whether or not it was good or not. But
That's a good
it was
one.
based on a.
Let's go.
It was a play based on a play by Tracy Letts. You know Tracy Letts, the actor, an actor, playwright.
Do I? No.
The dad in Lady Bird, and much else besides.
Okay, right.
You know, he's the one in Little Women who's like, if you write a story, make it short.
Oh yeah.
Make sure the woman's married or dead by the end or something like that.
Like that.
Anyway, everybody, that was Casters Countdown, and that was episode 94 of Pulp Kitchen.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to the episode this week. We really appreciate you spending our time with us. Don't forget we post new episodes of the show every single Wednesday.
Don't forget, guys, we're also posting a bonus episode this week in which we speak about James's girlfriend's experience about seeing an Alien double bill at the IMAX.
Well,
which we
really,
can go
she
to.
speaks about her own experience.
Yes,
because she makes her debut on the show.
Yes,
So if you ever
a
wondered-
reporter on the show, James's girlfriend Talia, comes and joins us and talks to us about her first time viewing Alien and Aliens for the first time.
So that'll be a
in the
cracker.
IMAX.
Yeah.
We were very jealous. So that's our bonus this week. And as ever, guys, please continue to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. We really appreciate it. It does mean a lot to us and it keeps us going. Rate us on Spotify, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Just sing to the hills. Tell your teacher, tell your mum, tell your dog, tell your priest. Pulp Kitchen's the way to go.
We are slowly approaching episode 100. Exciting things are coming.
I'm nervous how much you build it up.
That's it's just so exciting. It's exciting.
It's an exciting milestone. I'm putting pressure on ourselves to deliver something here, and I don't know if we can deliver.
Oh, we'll deliver. We'll deliver.
All right. See you guys next week. Have a great week.